Welcome back to another Live Time with Alec. I'm Alec. We're doing our leadership series today, and we're talking about consistency. We know the power of consistency in sales. I mean, we preach it all day long, right? But let's talk about what the consistency in leadership means and what it really does and the power of it in this episode. Like I said before, my friends, we understand the power of consistency in sales. It's built into our DNA. We understand that if we show up consistently every time, make relationships. In fact, most of us understand that the deep-rooted truth, which is trust, is built on a foundation of consistency. Period. Period. End of story. The only way you're going to get real trust is through consistency. So let's talk about it from a leadership perspective and what that really means. And it's interesting because COVID changed the dynamic on us like it did for everybody. It flipped the script. So consistency before in our normal brick and mortar life was literally being at the office, and consistent leaders were at the office early and through the end of the day. In fact, we all know that inconsistent leaders create an environment of distrust, and it doesn't work. But consistent leaders were there in the morning, and they were there in the evening as the kind of, open the doors and shut the doors type of a thing. Now think about that in COVID land. If you're a leader, or if you're an aspiring leader, how are you showing up for your people right in the morning? It's so complicated now. You can't, there's no office. You can't do Popeyes and coffee breaks. You can't see anybody at the water cooler anymore. And yet our same requirement of being consistent is still our burden to bear as leaders. And so how are we doing it? How about our consistency in our sales meetings? Those are one of the things that leaders tend to do well. They just had every month sales meeting, and it was like, well, at least I got my sales meeting. But now we're forced into Zoom, and those sales meetings tend to suck. Is that a fair comment? I'm not personally attacking anybody. My good friend, Rene Rodriguez, who is an absolute inspiration, put out a tremendous video the other day. And I'll link to it in this later so that you guys watching it can find it. Or just go to the social channels and just use the Google. But he talked about how video and sales meetings and all these things, that there's an excuse that we have short attention spans. And think about our kids. If you have kids that are on Zoom calls today, that they have short attention spans. And I realize his video proves this too. No, they don't. And no, you don't. You'll go sit and watch a 3-hour movie nonstop. No problem. You give your kids an iPad, they'll never let go of that screen. The problem is the message and the communication and the style and the experience of what we're doing on these screens isn't being delivered in a way that we enjoy. And don't even think for a second that it's only about entertainment. You'll watch Planet Earth movies all day long, and it's about like squirrels and raccoons and hummingbirds. And you're like, yes, show me more of that stuff, because it's incredibly presented, and there's music, and there's an experience being done. Sales meetings provided that physically. You bumped into each other. You said hi. You get on a Zoom call, and what? We don't experience it, and the cameras are off. So consistency in leadership is a very interesting thing in a COVID world, but it's never been more important. So I want to kind of be a little tactical on today's conversation. And by the way, I see you guys watching. Hello, just say hi, drop a comment, tell me where you're hanging out with me from. And if you're watching this in the future, hashtag bypass makes me happy. But I got to tell you, it's never been more important for leaders to show consistency. So let's get a little tactical. How do we do this? So if you're a leader and you get up for work every day, how do your employees know you're awake and working? I used to do this funny thing where I would comment to loan officers that didn't want to go work weekends. And I explained, man, this is a huge mistake. You have to go work weekends. And they'd be like, no, I don't. Oh, hi, Bernadette. They're like, no, I don't work weekends. I'm like, look, let me explain something very basic and fundamental to you. When a realtor is working, when they're in the communities, putting up yard signs and doing open houses, which COVID makes this weird, but stay with me on the analogy. When they're working, what do they think you're doing? They don't even know, and they probably don't even care, but I guarantee you they don't think you're working. You see, we are a judgmental society, and if you walk in to a realtor's open house, they know you're working. They know you're working. They know you're working just as hard as they are because you're out in the street. Translate that down to leadership, and if you're a manager today or a leader today or an aspiring leader, a sales manager, and you wake up, how does your team know you're working? So some tactical things, right? You could send a video message out to everybody every morning. Holy crap, does that sound like work? Yes. But how do they know you're engaged? How do they know you're awake yet? How do they know you're in the fight? They're doing prequels. They're getting customers. How do they know you're with them if you're not with them? See, this is our opportunity. This is our opportunity. It's also our threat. It's a threat because if you are a leader that is not embracing this new thing and you're not willing to go the distance, then what does your loan officers think? Well, they just don't work. What value do they bring me? I don't even need them. I don't even go in the office anymore. That train of thought, I've heard it from countless recruits. Countless recruits continue to say things like that to me all the time. And you know why? Because their leaders aren't being consistent in the new normal. Sure, they may be awake, but how do they know you're working? How do they know if you're working? And by the way, how do they know you're working for them? I know, because if you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is decline a bunch of pricing exceptions, but if you show up, let me give you another idea. And I've seen this by two groups, one in Washington at Loan Depot and one in Arizona, and I'm just in love. I'm madly in love. So we use Microsoft Teams. If you don't use Teams, you've got Facebook, your groups, you got lots of places for connection and collaboration. But they're literally hosting sales meetings, open floor, question asking sales meetings led by some of their leaders. And they're almost in Washington, they're daily, twice a day. But it's basically the good old fashioned, like, bring your problems and we'll talk about it at this meeting. And so people fill the chat up before they open it up, everyone gets on and they just say questions. And sometimes it's simple, like, I can't figure out how to fix this REO issue in the technology. And then somebody's like, well, screen share. Let me, and sometimes it's more complex, like, hey, how do I get better at this or video or this and this? And it's a more coaching opportunity, but it's creating this open door policy. See, man, I love the manager policy back in the day, the true days where it was like, hey, my door's always open. Door's always open. There's a difference between the door always being open and forcing someone to come to you and then providing spaces of collaboration that you're already in outside of your office where people can have this freedom to come in and just listen or engage or collaborate or connect. It's incredible. So I'm looking at those things happening, and then I'm looking at other things happening where it's nothing. It's nothing. There's no consistency. There's no action. There's no heat. There's no collaboration. There's no energy. There's no sharing of ideas. We have to continue to be better. So getting tactical again. How do you show consistency as a leader today in a digital world? Daily WhatsApp, email, video messages. Just going to say it. Get on the camera every single day and say good morning. I've noticed some people are doing this in branch-focused Facebook groups. Fantastic. Get on people on social, show up there yourself, and put out a morning message. I don't care if your morning message is, I hope you guys have a good cup of coffee today. Let me know if you need anything. Your message could be, hey, by the way, here were 2 announcements that the company had yesterday that I don't want you to miss. By the way, we're still doing this special on this. By the way, it could be that. Or it could just be a good encouraging message, a quote, a passage from a book, but it just get out in front of your people digitally and do it on a consistent basis every single day, just like brushing your teeth. And I'm telling you, you'll be shocked at the connection you're able to create. I mean, I was talking to our Washington team, Stacy, if you guys know her, she's amazing, and Trevor. And I was like, what's going on with this thing? How's this going? You're hosting this open forum, an hour a day, twice a day. Just people can join in and talk and ask questions. And I heard things like the team's never been tighter. It's created ultimate places of connection and collaboration, even though we're distant. And I was like, yep, that's what it does. And the consistency of having it on a regular schedule gives the team a place to have confidence in. Dude, thank you, Justin. This is why, by the way, this is a hack. You want a hack on how to get, if you're a leader and you're like, how do I get consistent? You make it public. Like for me, I go live every Tuesday on the leadership series, and then I'll do a loan officer series the next week on this LiveTime with Alec. I know 9:30. I'm doing it every Tuesday. It's on my calendar. It's scheduled in the system. I love how on social media you can schedule the post, because I'm like, crap, it's scheduled. Probably nobody's seen that it's scheduled, but I know it's scheduled, and that one person that hit like knows it's scheduled. So damn it, I got to show up to play on 9:30 on Tuesdays. That's what consistency provides. It gives you this, especially when you make it public, it gives you this pull. It pulls you into action. And that's what I love that good leaders provide for their team. When you have sales meetings, it pulls people into action. And by the way, this is a little pro tip on a small tangent. But if you're having Zoom sales meetings still and you have loan officers with their camera off still, shame on you as a leader. Like, I'm going to ring the shame bell. Like, come on. Now, after a year or so, like now you still, and I don't mean that somebody has having a hard time and they just need to have it on the background. That's fine. I get that. But really now, create systems of accountability and consistency that allows your team to thrive. Salespeople thrive on confidence. They thrive on consistency. And by the way, you notice I'm not even talking about consistency of behavior, because I guess I need to address it because maybe that's just the elephant in the room. But obviously, one of the core factors of great leadership is they have consistent behavior. When they get approached by their salespeople, those salespeople know what's coming. When they're not an erratic person, maybe if I open the door, they're going to be yelling at me, or maybe they'll be really happy to see me. They provide a consistent behavior. Now, I guess I have to say that, but I'm talking about consistency and best practices. I'm talking about showing up ahead of your team in a socially distant digital world where you can absolutely lay a groundwork of confidence for your team to operate within, continue to build places of connection, of ideation, a place for thought and creativity. That is what consistency can drive. That's what winning consistency looks like. And so I hope that's a challenge for some of you today that are hearing this, maybe, or in the future when you maybe bump into this video and you're like, consistency and leadership. Yeah. Show up every day. You have to do it digitally because we can't do it physically. Create intentional spaces of collaboration and creativity and idea sharing. Create that open door policy digitally and invite people in on a regular basis. I think that if you master, I will say this, which is just going to drive everybody freaking crazy, but it's a personal viewpoint, so you can be like, I don't agree, or you can say whatever. But I think leaders need to be where their people are. The same I coach towards loan officers. If you're a loan officer listening to this, I say the same thing. You need to be where the people are. So where are the people? Well, they're on social media, aren't they? That's where a lot of them are right now. And so I'm going to be very forward in stating emphatically that leaders need to be where their people are. In the same pool, swimming in the same stream, fighting the same fight, consistently, regularly. That's how you play. My friends, the best leaders are consistent leaders, not just in their behavior, but in their action. Not in their behavior like their emotional, behavior when people bump into them, but in their actions and how they drive connection, collaboration, and creativity. With consistency builds trust. And when you have trust in your leadership, your team can do amazing things. Keeping it short and sweet today, my friends. I hope you guys appreciate the message. It's one I'm working on every day myself, and that's why I share it with you. There's no mastery here. There's just learning it as we go together. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you on the internet.